What's up, guys? Matt Fragger. I'm back again, and I got another fragrance review video for you. And today, I would like to discuss some clone fragrances of discontinued fragrances. Now, when it comes to clone fragrances inspired by whatever you want to call it, there's a lot of conjecture around the topic. A lot of people out there don't really care for the idea of clones because they're kind of ripping off the original fragrance, and some people just don't have a very positive opinion of clones because of that. But when it comes to clones of discontinued fragrances, I've noticed that there's a little bit more acceptance in the fragcom when it comes to those type of clones, because when you have a fragrance that maybe a lot of people really loved, and then they discontinued that fragrance, when they come out with a clone of it, and you have an opportunity to have that experience that has been previously yanked away from you, then people are a little more receptive to that idea. So today I've got 5 clone fragrances inspired by fragrances that are based on, inspired by discontinued fragrances. And the first one that I want to talk about is going to be one that I wouldn't really call this. Now, see, when you get into talking about clones, there's fragrances that are cloning a fragrance where they're just trying their best to, get it as close as they can. And then you got fragrances that are inspired by a fragrance where there's a fragrance and they're trying to just kind of take that DNA, take that kind of vibe, that feel that you get from the fragrance, and replicate it, but with their kind of own little twist to it. And this is one of those that I feel is kind of doing that. This is an absolutely phenomenal cool weather fall winter fragrance on its own anyway. It's my favorite Latafa Caid of the line. There's 3 of them, and this is just the original Latafa Caid. Now, I have heard that this fragrance is inspired by L'Eau d'Issy Polaris. Now, that's a fragrance I've never got my nose on. I don't know how close it is, but just based on the opinion of others that have smelled D'Issy Polaris, this one appears to be, pretty close. Maybe not a direct clone, but kind of giving you that feel that you're going to get from D'Issy. And I mean, guys, this is just a beautiful fragrance on its own here. Some of the notes you're going to get here are cinnamon and cardamom and saffron, sandalwood, cedar, and then in the base, oud, vanilla, leather. What I get out of this fragrance is, just like I said, a great warm weather, cozy fragrance. A lot of that cardamom comes through. The leather is kind of like a softer, easy to wear, easy going type of leather in the base here. And yeah, like, I mean, just, it was a very well-rounded, high quality, well-balanced fragrance that I just can't see a lot of people not loving this for the cool weather. It is, like I said, my favorite of the Caid line, and it's one of my favorite Latafas, of which I think I have like 16 of them. This is a top 2 or 3 of all my Latafas. It's a great fragrance. That's Caid, the original Caid, and it is inspired by, apparently, L'Eau d'Issy Polaris. So let's move on to the next one. The next one that I want to talk about is going to be Starman Nebula. And this one here is inspired by, and is a little bit, as opposed to the Caid, is a little bit closer to and more of a one-to-one, if you will, kind of going for the fragrance by Terry Mugler, which is Pure Malt. And one of those fragrances that, from what I've heard, was like years before I got into doing this, was one of the more heavily hyped fragrances in the community, really popular one. It got discontinued. A lot of people were pretty upset about that. And this one apparently does a really good job of replicating that DNA, replicating that fragrance. And but just standalone on its own, it's a fantastic boozy fragrance that is again great in cool weather. Some of the notes that you're going to find in this fragrance are like up at the top. It's fruity, more of like a orange kind of fruity. And then you got malt, whiskey, and patchouli in the mid. There's some coffee in the mid too, but I don't pick up any of that. And then peat, vanilla, amber, and musk in the base. You do get that peat in here. In the base, it kind of provides like this kind of earthy kind of deepness to it. And then you also get a lot of booziness out of here. You definitely get that whiskey and the malt. And then it's got an overall kind of like fruity kind of orange feel to it. So this is one that, again, I have, matter of fact, now that I think about it, I don't think I've smelled the original fragrance that these 5 fragrances, I don't think I've smelled the original one of any of these. To be honest, I don't think I've got my nose on any of these, but I'm just kind of going by, I'm formulating my association of these to their original fragrances that they're cloning based on what people who have smelled those fragrances are saying. So I'm kind of, this is kind of like a third party opinion here as far as how close it smells to the fragrance. But this is an absolutely amazing boozy fragrance in and of its own, like on its own, in and of itself. But it is replicating, duplicating, inspired by a clone of Terry Mugler's Pure Malt. And it's a very good fragrance, guys. And that's Starman Nebula. I believe it's Fragrance World. That's one that I think it's Fragrance World. I'm sorry that I don't know exactly, but I'm pretty sure that it's a Fragrance World fragrance. So moving on to the next one. Now this is one that is a very cheap, very budget fragrance, but it's one that I would put in that category of fragrances that are just bang for your buck. Like price to quality ratio here is amazing for what you get for what you're paying for this, and that's Sapple Bound. And this one is inspired by Armani Code Profumo. Again, another discontinued fragrance that I think a lot of people were really upset to see that it was discontinued. I do believe, yeah, Armani has brought back a more modernized version, but from what I hear, it's got a little bit of differences to it from the original, but it's more of a modernized version of the Profumo. I don't think that that's what they're calling it, but you'd have to look into that a little closer. But as far as the original fragrance, Armani Code Profumo, this one is inspired by that fragrance, and this is so good for what you're paying for it. There's cardamom and green apple and mandarin in the top, and it does come off with a little bit of fruitiness and some sweetness. Orange blossom, lavender, and nutmeg in the mid. You really get that nutmeg in here. And then in the base, amber tonka bean leather. The leather in this again is like a smooth, easy leather, and just the quality here is so excellent for the price, and the performance on this one is really good for the price. Overall, this is just an amazing fragrance, cool weather fragrance that performs really well. The scent profile on this is amazing, and really cuts through that cold and stands out, projects really well. For the price point that you pay for this, it's an absolutely fantastic deal. And if you're looking for an Armani Code Profumo clone that's going to kind of give you that Profumo experience that's been discontinued now, then this one is going to do that for you. And I really love this. This is I have a few by this house by Sapple, and they're surprisingly good for the price. All the Sapples I've tried so far have been surprisingly good for the price. So that's Sapple Bound, and that's a cone of Armani Code Profumo. Next one I have here is another one in my collection that is, I mean, just one of my favorite fragrances in my collection for a variety of reasons. And that one is going to be Paco Rabanne's Ultra Red Man. And you've got this, very unique, very cool, like I'm going to spray it just, just because it's got this kind of stapler atomizer. And I just want to, man, and it puts out just a giant burst of juice. I mean, this atomizer is probably one of the best in my collection as far as putting out the spray, as far as how much comes out of it. Like this thing is just wets you down. It's like a fire hose. So what you got here, man, and it just, man, in the air, this thing is just gorgeous. This comes off, it's very orange and very creamy, kind of like an orange creamsicle in the open. And then as this thing dries down on your skin, it takes on this like amazing kind of depth and earthiness, the patchouli in the base of this. Let's see, notes wise, it's very simple note breakdown here. You got blood orange in the top, you got tonka bean and praline in the mid, and you got vanilla and patchouli in the base. And like I said, that orange and that orange comes off with the tonka bean, comes off really creamy and really smooth, like an orange creamsicle, and very sweet. This is a very sweet fragrance. And then as it dries down and that patchouli starts to come out in the base, it's a really like kind of deep earthy kind of patchouli, and it provides this really nice level of masculinity to the fragrance and depth. Like when it first, I've said before, I think I did a review of this fragrance, and I remember I think I categorized it as like a mullet, the mullet of fragrances, like a mullet, like business in the front, party in the back. This is like party in the front, business in the back, because when it opens, it's really playful and sweet and uplifting and bright. And then as it dries down, it just gets more mature and it gets more grounded, and it's just a great fragrance. And again, very good for cool weather. This is another one that's great for the cool weather. And this is a clone of Terry Mugler's Ultra Zest. So another Mugler clone here by Paco Rabanne. And I think this is just, one of those fragrances that is just worth picking up for a variety of reasons. First of all, it's got great performance. Second, it's got a really unique, what I feel is a really unique scent profile to it. And I love the bottle. I mean, what can I say? This stapler atomizer, it's unique. It's unlike anything else I've seen, and I just like the presentation on this one a lot. So that's Ultra Red Man by Paco Rabanne. That is a sweet orange kind of creamsicle style fragrance with some great depth. And that one is a clone of Terry Mugler's. I'm sorry, I just had a brain fart. That is a clone of Terry Mugler's Ultra Zest. So the last one that I want to talk to you about is Darige by Rasasi. Now, this fragrance, in my opinion, is like, I didn't even know that this was a clone of a fragrance, and I didn't know it was a clone of a discontinued fragrance. When I picked this up, I just picked this up because this is a very like budget, cheap budget fragrance. And, I figured, well, it's Rasasi, and I had already picked up Rasasi La Yucawam, which is absolutely amazing fragrance. And based on the strength of that pickup, I seen this and I said, well, I'll give one of these Rasasis a try, because the La Yucawam was so good. And I just fell in love with this fragrance right away. And then I found out afterward that this is inspired by a fragrance by Valentino called Valentino V. And another one of those fragrances where I think a lot of people were really hyped about it and really loved that fragrance, and then it got discontinued, and people were just like yearning to, kind of get that experience back. And this one does that. The notes in this are cumin, cardamom, artemisia in the top, rose, orris root in the mid. vanilla, tonka bean, amber, sandalwood, patchouli, and musk in the base. And this is just so classy and so like balanced, so well-rounded, so like I don't know, it's kind of posh, but it's also got like this kind of like ruggedness to it at the same time. Um, Definitely the kind of fragrance that is going to be one that you can wear dressed up or dressed down. Um, Very versatile. I would say that I would almost say that this is like a year round, any weather kind of fragrance, although it does really stand out in the cool weather. I've also worn this in, warmer weather, and it's just fine. It comes off the skin just fine in warmer weather as well. Um, I could see this being a signature scent for somebody. I really could. And, like if I didn't have like if I wasn't a crazy lunatic with like, 100 fragrances, which nobody even needs, um, I might make this my signature scent. Like I could see myself wearing this one, buying like a couple bottles of this and just riding that shit out for, a couple years, you know what I mean? And just wearing this all the time. It's that good of a fragrance. It's at a budget price. And I know that the Rasasis, as far as Rasasi goes, Rasasi fragrances are as they're compared to other clone fragrances, other like Middle Eastern clones. The Rasasis are typically a little bit higher end, a little bit higher price. Like Layukawam, when it came out, it was a little bit higher price than a lot of your other Middle Eastern clones were. Hawass, the Hawass fragrances are a little bit, just not much, but a little bit on the, a little bit pricier than some other that kind of typical clone price range for a clone fragrance. And this one though is just so well priced, like such a budget. I think it's like around that $20 mark. Um, and it's actually even cheaper than a lot of other clones are, but I feel it stands up right there with anything out there as far as being a great clone fragrance and just a great fragrance in general. This is a really good one. Like I think you'll be, if you haven't never tried this one, get your nose on this, and I think you'll be super surprised. Like this is one that might just like blow you away when you first try it because it is that good. So that's Darij by Rasasi, and that is inspired by Valentino V. So thanks a lot for watching this video today, guys. Like I said, I just wanted to kind of highlight some of the fragrances I have in my collection that are inspired by fragrances that have been discontinued, that you can't just, if you want to go out and buy them, you got to go to eBay and pay like hundreds of dollars to get these original fragrances. So for these houses to come out with clones of discontinued fragrances is something that I think just about everybody in the fragcom can agree on, and everybody can really get on board with. So thanks again for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. I'm the Mad Fragger. Thanks for joining me again, and I'll see you next time.